in the garden.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Geeks in the Garden.
Hey, today we are chatting about garden tourism and some of the favorite places that we visited in our area. We're also going to report on our fall garden prep and planting bulbs.
All right, let's dig in.
So we all have our reasons for traveling. For me, it's wanderlust. It's a desire to just leave it all behind, to experience new things, and to always come back feeling I've gained so much personally. So adding garden tourism to travel plans is just a bonus. Garden tourism is deemed as visiting botanical gardens or places that are significant in the history of gardening. And within a few state radius of where Karen and I live are some of the best botanical gardens, specimen gardens, and living landscapes in the East Coast of the United States. So we're going to do, this is going to be our part one of our highlight of some of these gardens. And we're going to add a little bit at the end where we go over some of our wish list gardens too.
Yes. Now, my very favorite place I think I've ever been to is Longwood Gardens. I cannot imagine a place more beautiful. It's located near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And you get up there a lot. You are.
I do. I do. I love it. It's always changing. It's so inspiring. It's just this amazing place that you can just be and appreciate beauty. Oh, yeah. I love to go as much as I can. So it came about as a project of Pierre Dupont in the early 1900s and eventually became public. Today, it is over 1,000 acres of just gorgeous forests, meadows, plants of every imaginable color and shape. There's a huge fountain show. There's this amazing conservatory with constantly rotating displays of all kinds of things, carnivorous plants, orchids. There's a children's garden with fountains that just spurt whimsically and beautiful statues and little spaces to sort of explore. There are also great big tree houses that kids can play around in. It's basically Disney World for plant people. It's just an amazing place to be.
It definitely is. And it's a lovely drive up there too.
Yes. Yeah. It's not too bad. It's not too far from here. All right. And the next one that is also kind of close to us is Ladue Gardens. It is billed as one of the most outstanding topiary gardens in America. It offers gardens, of course, a manor, a butterfly house to explore. Its rooms, it's like garden natural rooms, range from hedges trimmed into the shape of dogs in motion to a tea house nested in the trees. It is a great place to have play dates, if you've got your kids there. I have a great picture of my children pretending to flee in front of the horses or the dogs that were running. It's just catches your imagination to see all these really cool things made of plants like that.
It is definitely magical. It was one of the places when I first moved here with my 3-year-old where we had play dates there, and it's just lovely to walk around. And also because my family also loves part of being in the region. We live in Baltimore, but we live close to DC, and there's all sorts of museums and events and festivals. And often at the end of a day of doing all of that, we find a lovely respite at the U.S. Botanical Gardens. So created in 1820, the U.S. Botanical Gardens is divided into several habitats, like most the glass greenhouse type conservatories. It ranges from desert to rare and endangered species. Its current location was constructed in 1933, and it has these 2 open air courtyards with 10 garden rooms in total. The National Garden also adjoins the greenhouse. It has 3 acres of roses, butterfly gardens, water gardens, and terrace gardens. And it also is overseen by the U.S. Botanical Gardens is Bertholdi Park, which is it's considered a demonstration garden that's meant for homeowners to learn from. I've just kind of stumbled upon classes there during the summer and during the fall. Also a favorite in the area is the National Arboretum. It was established in 1927. It is a hub for botanical research and beautiful displays. We have pictures of my dad. I think it was his homecoming from high school there in the spring. I guess it was in the fall. It just in the beautiful gardens there. It has several collections worth noting. It has the National Bonsai and Pinjing Museum, the National Grove of State Trees, and their dogwood, magnolia, and other single genus collections. Maybe the most famous symbol is the National Capitol columns. I think that they didn't use them and they ended up repurposing them. They stand in the middle of a meadow. It's these just large white columns all placed together, and it's very iconic. There you can, wherever you're walking towards them. And also present is in the Bonsai Museum is the Japanese white pine. It was donated to celebrate the United States bicentennial, I guess, a tree that survived the bombing of Hiroshima. It's over 390 years old. And it's just, it's very profound when you're there. So, and just the whole place is just a lovely place to park and walk and picnic when you're in the DC area. Another place to visit the DC area is the Kenilworth Park and Aquatic Gardens. It's home to these wildlife meadows with various freshwater species native to wetlands. It has water lilies, lotus flowers that grow along the water's edge, and just different species blooming across the park all year long, including perennial flowers and wild rice. The location tries to preserve both native wildlife that was present before the DC area became this huge concrete coated sprawl that it is. So they do a lot of educational services as well. We also like the garden that sits outside the Smithsonian Castle. That's that red building that was the first Smithsonian building constructed. It is called the Enid A. Hop Garden. The grounds includes the Parterre Garden, which mimics a 16th century Italian garden with various patterns of plant life. It has a Chinese-inspired moongate garden with a water feature for relaxation. It's perfect on a hot day to just kind of go in the shade there and sit in the water. It has a garden styled after a Moorish palace in Spain with Islamic botanical stylings featuring symmetry and central water canals. I always like to walk around this little garden in the spring and fall to see the way that the garden design showcases all the seasons. It's really lovely. And then just going a little bit north of us in the Philly area, there are a couple favorite places we like to visit. There's the Chanticleer. It features plenty of appealing features. It has a babbling stone stream. It has fields of daffodils in the spring, and it has a little tea house amongst the meadows. They have a ruin garden that has unique rooms constructed out of stone that are intentionally overgrown. It's really lovely. Other gardens are similarly unique. They have a forest trail with a stone-cut bridge carved to look like a beech tree, and the cut flower garden has arches constructed of rebar and driftwood to add structure to surrounding annuals, perennials, and biennials. Also near Philly are two great visits for tree and garden lovers. There's the Tyler Arboretum and the Morris Arboretum. The Morris has lovely walkways that wind through a fernery, wetlands, and other gardens with specimen plantings from Europe and North America. And my kid's favorite was the Tree Adventure, where you get this bird's eye view of the forest from 50 feet up in the canopy walk in the woods. It's made out of it's like almost like a hammock that you walk along the trail, and then they have this hanging hammock. It's huge that you're up in the trees. The Tyler Arboretum dates back to the days of William Penn and is one of the oldest public gardens in the U.S. Many trees date back to the 1850 planting experiments of the Painter brothers, who planted thousands of trees back then. They have a scenic loop where you can visit the butterfly house, the rhododendron garden, and they have a meadow maze. They have tree houses, and they even have a little hobbit hollow. So it's perfect. And then I think we're going to talk about some of your wish list gardens, Karen.
Yes, I have so many wish list gardens. So just to see all the ones you were just talking about would be amazing because honestly, I just go to Longwood. If I have the chance, Longwood pulls me. It has a gravitational force. I just must go to Longwood. There are other amazing things. And in particular, I'm very interested in world-class gardens. And that may just be because I just follow so many of them on Instagram. And I love to see all these cool things that are flowering. Even when, it's not in season here, you can look and see all around the world, really cool things are in bloom. And I would love to take an international trip and just see all these things. I saw the gardens at Versailles on our honeymoon about 20 years ago. And that was, of course, incredible. Since then, I've been pretty bound to this area, with COVID in particular. But I am looking forward to one day, getting out there and seeing some really cool gardens all over the planet. The New York Botanical Gardens is in the United States still, and that's one I'd really like to see that I've never been to. They have really cool art kind of exhibits in the gardens that I think would be really neat to see.
Yeah, you and I were going to try and get up there this fall. So
That's right. Yeah.
I just had a friend that went to that exhibit and she posted
it was amazing.
It was really amazing.
Yep. So got to get on that next time. I'd also like to go to the Kew Botanical Gardens in London, the Australian National Botanical Gardens. Also, while we're dreaming, Japan. Japan has three beautiful many, but there's three that are considered maybe the most beautiful. And one is called Kanroken. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not sure. Yeah, that name actually means 6 factors or aspects of garden's beauty, which I think is really cool that's so strategic. It's right in the name there. They have 6 ways that garden is going to be beautiful, and they include spaciousness, tranquility, artifice, antiquity, water sources, and magnificent views. And I think that sums it up perfectly.
Oh, sigh. That sounds gorgeous.
Right?
On my wish list, first I want to go with all those with you as well, but probably more realistic in the States is the Gertrude Jekyll Garden in Connecticut, because it's the only designed garden that she did that we can still visit in the United States. So I'd love to see that, but I would definitely love to see her designed gardens in the UK as well. There's just a ton of them. I'd also love to see Monet's gardens in France. That's just on my perennial wish list. Crates Castle in Scotland is one that I always hear about. It just sounds amazing the way that it's designed. And then there's this really beautiful, the surrealist sculpture gardens in Mexico. They're called Los Pozos. It's the wells. And it just, the photos that I've seen are just amazing, the way that they use the jungle, the surrealist sculptures, and then the actual botanical elements as well. It's just really, really amazing. So
that sounds cool. Ooh, maybe when we go up and go to the Gertrude Jekyll Garden, we could also see Emily Dickinson's garden.
There you go.
Amherst, because I would love to see that. Of course, you gotta love Emily Dickinson. I mean, my goodness. And
all right, we're gonna do our little pocket northeast garden.
There you go. Oh my gosh, I would love that.
All right, so we will wrap up with a part 2 of this, because obviously there are just more gardens than we have time to talk about, but we'll revisit part 2 of this in our next episode.
All right, so it is fall, and that means we are planting fall bulbs, which is always kind of a nice thing to do because we know winter's coming. We know that long spate of having, no plants to really take care of is coming upon us, but we can plan for something to look forward to in the spring. And that is our lovely bulbs that are going to be planted in the ground now and then will come up nice and early. I definitely have a few crocuses I'll be adding to what I already have. I feel like every spring I take walks around the neighborhood and I see who already has flowers out. And if it's before me, then I instantly find out what they are and order them so that I can also have them, because it is my goal to have the earliest flowers in the neighborhood. It is going to happen. I will make it happen. I love early spring flowers. It, like, just gives you this wonderful, dash of hope in a really sort of, cold, dreary time. So I will definitely be planting more crocuses. Also, I have a burning desire for fritillaria. Fritillaria are
Oh, I
so
love
cool.
them. I love it. It's so delicate, the little design on them and their
Delicate,
the
so
little bell shaped, right? Is that the right
yep,
one?
yep, and
Yep.
like little bell
Yep.
shaped or big. I had a giant fritillaria. I had beginner's luck. A few years ago, when I was really starting to think about planting bulbs, I planted a giant fritillaria bulb. And the next spring, it was this incredible thing of beauty, this gargantuan, beautiful work of art that every neighbor passed by and everyone was taking pictures of. And it was so great. But then it just didn't come back. I don't know why. It just died
Yeah.
in the ground. And so then I bought some more fritillaria bulbs and I planted them and they just didn't come up. So now I feel like fritillaria is my true best destiny, but somehow I keep tragically not being able to follow it. So I still am hoping fritillaria is going to happen.
Your fritillaria is like me and delphinium.
Oh,
Maybe
delphinium.
maybe you got lucky once and then now it's not to
did.
be.
It was like beginner's luck. It was the first fritillaria I ever planted. Go figure, right?
Well, I did. I ordered a bunch of bulbs, and then I also found like a bunch of bulb baskets at Aldi of all places. They had really great prices on them, and from just talking to people, they seem to have really good looks. So they're just nice collections. I have not gotten out in the fall the last 2 years and early enough to plant. I've been planting my bulbs in the spring, so I am looking forward to having things already established and ready to go in the spring and not have to be out there sticking them all in and hoping. So yeah, I'm just a little prep this fall and I'm going to be back organized like I used to be because the bulbs that I did plant years ago are the ones that come up first. They are. I am the first Karen in my
Aha.
my crocus and other ones that I've planted, they definitely are like poking their heads up the end of March, beginning of April. So yeah, but do you have any places that you suggest people look at for bulbs? Because I know that you had some that you don't suggest, some that you do suggest. So
I don't know. Yeah, bulbs can be really, really tricky because I've ordered plenty from like Michigan Bulb and from Brex, and they don't necessarily come up too consistently. And I'm not really sure why that is. Both places have been pretty good about either sending me a refund or a replacement. But the fact is, by the time you figure out that it didn't work, it's super disappointing and you're just like, done with the whole thing. So, honestly, I feel like I get the best luck when I get things in person, when you go to your Home Depot or your Lowe's, or even Costco will have bulbs. Or, at a nice big nursery, you're going to find like, a better selection that's beyond just like daffodils and tulips and stuff, that has some really cool things. So I would try to maybe get the bulbs in person, although that like the call of the online bulbs is so tempting because they have all the really cool, really different stuff. And I must admit, I just keep buying them, even though I don't always have luck. I just keep buying them.
I'm always worried, yeah, if I can't see them, if they are mushy, if they've been stored correctly, or if they're even the right batch, if it's like the year and they're not older. So I agree. I do like to look at them in person. So I have I forgot I did buy a thing at Costco. I did also buy some bulbs at our local nursery. So yeah, I have a nice collection. It's funny. I'm just going to end up sticking them in the ground because I don't have the beds ready for them yet, but I need to get them in the ground. But the one thing we had talked about, I also had ordered some bulbs from Baker Creek. And while I was at it, I started looking through their list of poppies and I found that it is actually better to plant because I said my goal is to have a larger bed because they just have so many amazing specimens of poppies. And I'm just going to order one of each. I'm just going to have this huge poppy garden. And so I need to get out there and plant them because August to October is the best time to plant poppies. So I am getting to work on that. I've started already. I've been ordering. And the one great thing I found about ordering from Baker Creek, this is just my little tip, is that if you order, it's free shipping, their seeds. And you get a free pack of seeds with every little order you put in. So I'm putting in small batch orders of their poppies. I think I'm going to order 16 varieties to begin with.
Mean.
And then the lovely thing, as we have discussed, is I can collect seeds from all those poppies. So you will have 16. We will switch out and share. That's what we do best as gardeners. So
yes, indeed, for sure. Yes. And if you haven't read it yet, the new book by Michael Pollan, which is This Is Your Mind on Plants, has an excellent chapter about poppies and about how wickedly forbidden they have been for being simple flowers. Quite the controversy about them. So
well, I did order the opium one. So we'll
there you go. Your little defiant witchiness is being fulfilled, I would say, which is very cool.
So, I hope everyone else is out there getting your bulbs in and getting everything planned for what we can do this fall. We're going to talk a little bit about that in our next episode as well, our fall prep for our... And speaking of fall bulbs and beauty and nature, I thought I'd do our plant feature this month on the lovely iris. Now, when you think of irises, you most likely picture a bearded iris. These are the imported garden irises of the Siberian, Styria, Dutch, and Japanese groups. There are approximately 280 species of iris in the world, and the majority of them are native to Europe and Asia, though there are 28 iris species native to the United States that are beautiful in their own right. Now, anyone who reads Greek mythology knows that Iris is the name of the goddess of the rainbow, which has to be one of the better assignments from Mount Olympus. The elegant iris has been the symbol of monarchs and royal families throughout history, including the Bourbon kings of France like Louis XIV. The fleur-de-lis, the elegant three-section symbol, is still widely used throughout decorative arts. In fact, the iris is probably second only to the rose as a favored flower in great art. Irises appear in paintings by Leonardo da Vinci, Renoir, Cézanne, Van Gogh, Gauguin, and of course, Claude Monet. So we all agree it's an elegant, eye-catching flower, and it does indeed come in a rainbow of patterns and colorful hues, from delicate white or yellow and the earthy browns to coppery red and deep maroon and gorgeous purples. While you can find native irises in many of the U.S. states, continuing loss of the habitats threaten many as they grow in fragile, easily damaged habitats like wet meadows, swamps, and other wetland areas. Most of our native irises are extremely difficult to transplant and will not survive this disturbance. And for this reason, on national forest lands, it is illegal to dig or pick the irises. Irises also have medicinal history, the roots being used in preparation for medicines from skin infections, syphilis, dropsy, and stomach problems. Today, the root is still used in traditional medicine and cultures to purge the liver. I think every garden should have a little patch of iris. They are famously easy to grow and some of the most persistent perennials of all. They can withstand being untended for years. Often you'll see an old garden that is overgrown with weeds and grass, and in that brush, you'll see those sword-like leaves of the iris poking through and persevering, which makes kind of a mascot for these times that we're in.
So, as far as plant news this time, we have talked a lot about gardens, of course, which exist in a fairly small scope of time. That's just the growing season, of course, spring to fall. But if you think of a garden as a specially cultivated group of plants, then gardens can exist in a much larger time frame, over millennia even. And the giant sequoias and redwoods in California, for instance, are a kind of garden. They're carefully managed and cared for by humans who are trying to make sure that they're around for even longer. They've been around for thousands of years. However, they are currently in danger because of poor forest management over the past century. And of course, the increasing wildfires, which have just taken such a toll on the environment as well as on human life. Recently, the world's largest tree, the Sequoia General Sherman, had to be wrapped in foil to try to save it from the fire that was encroaching, which was really kind of a heartbreaking thing to see, a very stressful picture to see that amazing tree just, wrapped in a little bit of foil. But fortunately, the effort was successful for that tree, but many other sequoias have perished. Now, fire can be a good thing, of course, in forests, and they do need some fire to open their pine cones. But this particular form of fire that, of course, has been caused by humans to some extent due to climate change, it burns so hot that it doesn't just open up the pine cones, it also overcomes the trees themselves. It burns more than 90% of their leaf canopy, and that's the end of that tree. So, that is a really sad thing, but it's something that we're trying to fight. Fortunately, to give us a little bit of hope, humans aren't always the cause of destruction of our planet's long-term plant communities. Recently, the journal Science publicized findings of a study which found that the indigenous people in British Columbia deliberately planted forest gardens. That is, around their communities, they planted fruit trees and berry bushes, and that's more than 150 years ago. This let them harvest hawthorn, crab apples, hazelnuts, and cranberries. And the cool thing is, these trees are still around today, many of them. So we have these sudden islands of biodiversity in the middle of an otherwise, sort of normal forest. You come upon this, we've got like a whole, whole forest here that provides all your nutritive needs. So it's cool to think that even though we can create long-lasting damage, we can, if we get it together, we can create long-lasting benefits as well.
I like that. It's a nice little spin, the humanism spin.
There's hope, people. We have to remember the hope.
So thank you for joining us today. We thought we'd wrap up the show by sharing some stuff that we're digging right now.
Yes, indeed. So I am digging fall blooming plants because about this time, a lot of things are winding down. It's getting a little colder. And I really just love to see that sudden flush of color from fall blooming plants. And recently, I don't even know how I didn't realize this before now, but I just suddenly came upon fall blooming anemones. Anemones. I can say that.
It's a fun one to say or mispronounce.
Right. That's a lot of words. Anemone, right. So, of course, I noticed it in my neighbor's yard first, and I was like, oh, that is amazing. It's such a beautiful flower and blooming so late. So I got some at a local nursery, some 3. And so now I have like some fall blooming anemones, holy mackerel going on. Also obedient plant. I love obedient plant because it's also just sort of a beautiful, shocking purple color that suddenly comes out like from nowhere this time of year. It's really cool. And then of course, Shasta daisies, you see their buds coming all year. You're like, when is it going to come? When does it finally pop? All of a sudden, all over the place, you have these lovely, happy little Shasta daisies showing their little yellow and white faces. So I'm just enjoying all those beautiful fall blooms out there.
Yeah, my garden is filled with black-eyed Susans and asters, and I've got a mum plant. That's
asters and mums. Yep.
But my spider plants and my pot, there's still a whole bunch out there blooming still. So, but we haven't had our big chill. So we'll get our chill, and then we'll see on the other side.
All my black-eyed Susans are now just their little black heads. All the petals are long gone. I just have
really? Mine are still like the whole front yard is all black-eyed Susans. So
I don't know. Mine decided they were going to be a Halloween decoration or something.
But are yours from my batch?
Yeah, actually, they're your black-eyed Susans.
Okay, I don't know.
Must maybe the thing about the situation they're in, the environment. Then.
Yep. See,
nature over nurture. I don't know. No, nurture over nature.
No, you definitely take care of your plants, but more like I haven't watered my plants at all in September because we kept getting rain. So, but now I'm telling on myself. So, anyway, I am digging on the new Mary Roach book, Fuzz. I got it out from the library. I am looking forward to digging into it a little more. If you know Mary, you'll know she's just a gifted science writer. She infuses everything with her sense of humor and her incredible research. She's just a lovely nerd's nerd. And this one is about the crossroads of human behavior and wildlife biology. Like I said, I cannot wait to finish it.
Ooh, Ooh, I'll have to pick that one up. That sounds really cool. All right. So please come find us on Instagram at Geeks in the Garden and subscribe on all the podcast streamers like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and feel free to leave a review to help others find us.
That's right. And like I said, join us on our next episode where we're going to go over part 2 of our garden tourism feature. We're going to talk about garden cleanup, fall tasks that we can do to get our gardens ship shape for the spring, and we'll have a new featured plant. Now go. Yeah. Go dig into those seed and bulb catalogs.
And dream of your spring garden.
We switched it up for you guys. So thanks, everyone. See you next episode.
Bye-bye.